Hey, welcome to the channel. This is real estate conversations that no one's having, and they probably should. I'm Corey Androdi, your host from Corcoran Horizon Realty, and I help folks navigate the next move, their next chapter move. Most people refer to that as a downsize, but I like to refer to it as a right size. The myth that when you downsize, you end up with smaller house, less stuff, isn't always the case. Today's, downsizers, empty nesters, retirees, sometimes it's an upsize. And that can really cause a lot of confusion. So over the years, I have found that the most valuable conversation to have with folks that are thinking about downsizing is not starting at the beginning. And not starting at okay, how do we sell the house? We actually start at the very end. Well, that conversation usually looks like this. What do you want your life to look like? So if you are someone who is looking to travel the world and spend 6 months away, you're definitely not going to want a house that needs to be taken care of. And, so when you're away for 6 months, the grass isn't growing up to here. So you might want to consider something like a condo where you can leave your front door, but there's not going to be grass up to your eyeballs. There's not going to be maintenance that has to be done. You don't have to have people to come in and look after your home. But that's one option. The other option I find is people are wanting to get closer to their kids and grandkids. So the motivation is very different than it used to be, say 20 years ago, where people just automatically sold a big family house and moved to a small, condo or a small bungalow and were miserable. I would say that is probably the most important part of the whole process, is the finding out what the end looks like, because then you can decide how you're going to get there. There's no sense going out looking at houses or putting your house on the market when you have no idea what the end point looks like. I'm going to be honest, I have a system that I put in place specifically for this kind of buyer-seller, because unlike being a first-time buyer, where you're just happy to get in the market, this is a completely different emotional sale. So look at it this way. First-time buyers, you got in the market, you were happy to have a house, you were, young and carefree. Then the second move was a move up. So you moved to a bigger house because, your family was expanding. And that was usually the time where you had rooms that weren't furnished, at least not for a while. We all had some fun with those orange crates, didn't we? But my point is, when you're going the opposite direction, where you're trying to take that, 2,500 square foot house, you can't just stuff it into an 1,100 square foot bungalow, can you? What I'm getting at is, it's not just a house. This is where you brought your children up. This is where you celebrated holidays. This is where life happened. So the whole emotional component of it, people find is unexpected. And whether you like it or not, that's a hurdle you have to go through. In a lot of cases, people get terrified by, I don't want to throw this out, I can't get rid of this, and it can be very overwhelming. But having a vision of what the end looks like can sometimes make the pathway along the way a little easier to do, or at least feels like it's a purpose. So maybe that antique table that, is a dining room table that seats 16, you might kind of go, yeah, it was a great table and I'm glad I had it, but it's time for it to go to a new owner who can enjoy it, because my life is going to look like this. So it can be a very complicated, seemingly complicated and emotional journey, but going to the end to find the beginning can certainly save a lot of heartache. It can help keep clarity to the whole process. And at the end of it, you'll be living the life that you have